I'd like to welcome you to this roundtable about diversity and inclusion. It was your initiative, Ulrike. Ulrike Tondorf, head of Life and Experience branding at Bayer. You thought it would be a good idea to have this conversation. Why, Ulrike?
Absolutely, because it's still need to talk about. Even if we all hopefully live it already, it's still something we have to discuss and help others to better understand what to focus on.
Okay, so let's introduce our other guests. Stefanie Winter, you're head of events at Siemens. Welcome, Stefanie. Michelle Euzet, you're a professional speaker and also a consultant. What do you speak about usually, Michelle?
I speak about my I would say my experiences and stories and what it means for cultural change, transformation, and diversity in companies. So
okay,
I spent 20 years in B2B hidden champions as a leader.
We can expect a lot of examples from you during this discussion. That's nice to look forward to. Thomas Wieringa, head of global marketing at Damen Yachting.
Yes.
During the yachting, I just learned recently that I cannot say ship or vessel, but I should say yacht. Why?
Hans, you're a very quick learner. It's just the way it is. We talk yachts, we don't talk boats.
Okay, what's the difference between a boat and a yacht?
I would say size matters in this case.
Okay, but there must be a diversity in floating vessels as well.
I would say the landscape of boats, yachts, vessels, and ships is a very diverse landscape. Yes.
Okay. And this diversity, maybe this is a nice bridge to our topic, diversity and inclusion. That's what we'll be talking about in the next, let's say, 55 minutes. But what are we talking about, in fact? What is our definition of diversity and inclusion? Ulrike?
I think diversity is about people and the understanding on others, other people, to learn to respect and value each individual, irrelevant of their background. And inclusion is more about the how, a sense of belonging, kind of inclusive cultures makes people feel respected and valued for who they are and what they are as an individual or group.
In Ulrike's definition, Michelle, isn't that more or less similar?
Yes, but what I like to the diversity and inclusion now. Inclusion is needed for having a beneficial diversity, I would say, if you see it from a business perspective. I think diversity is something we do have in different extent, but it's not only about the skin color and the gender and so on, but it's also about the mindset, it's also about our habits, it's also about how we see things and how we grew up, for example. So, and the question is very often, how much of this diversity do we really bring in our daily business and in the companies, because it's something which is rich. And of course, for companies now, it's about having even more diversity, adding all these also visible attributes now, which are spoken about very often. And inclusion is not only about having this diversity, but also working together, giving everybody the chance, the opportunity to contribute. So it's not enough to have diversity. You need to have also diversity where the decisions are made. Otherwise, it is not, I would say, beneficial diversity.
So it's about diversity in different places in your organization, and it's also, and inclusion is about embracing diversity. Is that the same for you, Thomas? Would that fit your description?
I'm always very pragmatic when it comes to making these definitions. For me, diversity is like the team setup. It says something about the person itself, gender, where somebody comes from. Then the leveraging of that team basically is all about inclusion, making sure everybody plays a certain role And talking about teams, you always give a team an objective,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a road to this objective. And inclusion for me is the enabler of making sure that we reach this goal in the most sufficient and efficient way, basically.
So inclusion is getting the value out of diversity.
It's basically you're using the assets that you have, and it's also about seeing the benefit of having a diverse team. I think it's like you have a car, and the car is the car. But having a license to drive a car, or even taking it on a racetrack, then you're using what you have physically. I'm making it very black and white here, but maybe it makes it very tangible for some people who have difficulty in understanding diversity and inclusion.
But at least it's the inclusion is the practical side of diversity, as I understand you well. Okay, Stefanie, is there a diversity possible without inclusion, or the other way around?
Yeah, I would say diversity is possible without inclusion, because diversity is the frame you can set. That's something you can do top down, to say you have to have a certain number of women, of disabled, on what have you. But inclusion is the part that needs to come natural to make it work.
Okay, but does it have to come natural? Is that something that you can acquire or learn to include
I think
people?
it's something you can learn. You have either you already have it and you appreciate it, or you can learn it by discovering unconscious bias you might have, or even conscious bias, which you have as well sometimes. And it's something you constantly need to talk about and need to be aware of.
Okay, so it needs to be a topic. It needs to be out in the open.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, dear viewers, if you have any questions too, now you've heard these definitions of inclusion and diversity. If you have any questions to one of these guests in the panel, please let me know in the chat, and we will ask your question to all of them, or maybe to one of them if you indicate their names. So let's go back. We have a kind of rough definition of diversity and inclusion, and I'm still wondering, would it be possible to have inclusion without diversity? What would that mean? Michelle.
Yeah, I think that given that you've got diversity anyway, so it depends on what attributes you looked at. No, so and inclusion, you may have no inclusion despite this diversity if you don't really step outside of your comfort zone. I think inclusion is always stepping outside of your comfort zone. So you can have also people from, I don't know, I like to use also examples which are very, very common for everybody today. So you are in engineers, hidden champions, and you've got some people with another background. The question is, do you use these perspectives they have or not, for example? And to do so, you need to step outside of your comfort zone. You need to be ready to need maybe a little bit more time to come to a solution, because you won't agree at the very first moment. So of course, you can have inclusion or no inclusion also if you don't have a very huge diversity or very visible diversity. So these are yes, there cannot be, from my point of view, inclusion without diversity, because it's really about using the diversity which is there.
Yeah, I understand. Ulrike, I saw you nodding earlier on. Well, Michelle was...
Yeah, yeah. From my point of view, inclusion is not always naturally given, because in some companies you have a culture, right, that is there. And it's often hard to actually come to another level where you are able to accept all values of all people that are in the company. So it often takes a moment to, as Michelle said, step out of your comfort zone and hear what others say, and give them the opportunity to try, right? So to try something new, to speak up, and then even get projects on another level, because you can learn much more from others then, right? And here what another culture is thinking about, to then also reflect on that. So I think there is still a way to go, and the opportunity to open up and help to be more diverse by giving the opportunity to be more inclusive.
Okay, and it sounds interesting to learn from other cultures, learn from other people, but is it really necessary in a business situation? If I would put it very black and white, what would be my advantage what would be the advantage for the result of my company if I would work on my inclusion or my diversity?
It depends on what you are doing, right?
Uh-huh.
I think if you have a diverse company,
let's say I'm building yachts.
Yeah. So you have a company that is in several countries, acting in several countries. Then you are an international company, and then you have to respect all cultures because you want to talk to them and you want to get them buying what you are producing. So you need to understand what their need is. And by hearing all these cultural areas and colleagues and diverse employees, you can much better understand what the need of the customer is at the end. So it is somehow, from my point of view, connected.
It sounds like conquering a challenge instead of finding a more synergetic value. What would be the extra value for that?
I don't know. Yeah.
Michelle, yeah?
So, I used to be a kind of diversity proof point at some point. But what is very, very important for me that companies, organizations look at this area of diversity and inclusion as a business case. It's a business case. If you look at the studies of McKinsey, for example, it's not about only being more creative or more innovative. It's also about being more profitable in comparison to other companies where the decision level is more uniform, for example. And heterogeneity just brings better solutions. And in this area where we are with VUCA, okay, the VUCA world, but also all this digitization and so on, and so many and so much uncertainty and so many parameters, you can't take care of everything the way we used to do it. So we really,
Michelle, you talk about McKinsey, and McKinsey has McKinsey proven in research that it's advantageous to your company in the business result?
Yes.
Okay, and
not only in the business results, but also in the profitability.
Profitability?
Yes. As companies with diverse decision levels are over performing in comparison to other companies. Okay. And this is not just one shot or something like that, but it's really over years. It's something which is, it is logical if you see how complex our world is today.
So it would be very foolish not to work on your diversity and inclusion. Stefanie?
Absolutely, because our customers are no stereotypes either. So they come from all countries, they are of all sexes, of all religions, and what have you. So if we would only serve, for example, white males in their 40s, we would limit our own market. So it's absolutely necessary to be diverse and inclusive and to address as many as possible. And it's a value for the company itself, because you look at challenges from different angles, you come into a discussion. The road might be more bumpy to come to that, but I think the result is far more enriching.
Okay, Thomas, is it a bumpy road towards diversity and inclusion?
Yes, I do think it's a bumpy road. It's the mix of things that you need to influence basically to work on your diversity and inclusive mindset. Working together with senior management, leadership teams, which are most of the time the least diverse teams in an organization.
Often they are people like me, men over 50, white,
exactly, yeah,
gray bearded.
Not as good looking as you are, Hans.
Thank you, Thomas.
And on the other hand, you see larger corporations, and we at Damen Yachting globally, we have about 13,000 employees. This whole new generation of workforce coming in, being raised in a completely different way, being challenged and being influenced by all global things that are happening. That's like two generations that are conflicting one another, and organizations on a path to more diverse and inclusive teams. Yes, that is bumpy, because for those who have been used to doing a certain way of managing their job, of doing their job for the last 20, 30 years, needs to change all of a sudden. And some of them would see the sense of urgency, the other ones won't. That's like with every change process. You always have people that are getting on board quite quickly and embrace the change that is coming and see the added value. And some others just wait until the last minute to say that they're not energized by
Yeah,
it. So
there's early adapters and there's laggards also in marketing in your profession,
exactly.
of course. Yes,
Yeah.
but the diversity that you mention here is in age, and of course that's something that will solve itself with some patience and some time.
Yeah.
But how about other aspects like the male and female balance, or skin color, or religion, or?
Well, I think within Damen, I'm super happy with the fact that globally we have 35 shipyards. Already in my team, I have 5 different nationalities. The team is more. I need to work on the male presence because it's more female presence to get a better balance in. But there's so many nationalities and backgrounds already, and we have guys working and engineering the vessels, still people that are working in sales and everything in between. So it's if you talk melting pot of diversity, I would say
You're doing a good
on our
job.
way. But it all depends on the departments. Engineering would be a more male-driven department than a female-driven department. But again, the huge amount of nationalities and background is just massive.
Ulrike, would it be easier for a large company, or with Bayer, which is also a very large company, would it be easier for a large company to have diversity and inclusion?
What do you mean with easier? I think it's important to do, right? Within Bayer, beginning of the year, it was decided to have a transformation officer in the BOM, in the board of management, to guarantee and to exactly do that, starting the change and the transformation in the company. It's for sure still a long way to go, but it's a good start to have that implemented into the mindset of the board, so that we actually start with it. And already a lot happened, right? There were a lot of workshops within the management area done, and even in our areas, we had a lot of conversations, and do already try these safe to try sessions, and think about who and where is the decision taken, right? And empower others. So as I said, there is still a long way to go, and I'm sure you need to do small steps to get there, but you have to start with the small steps at a certain point. And as big of a company is, as more complicated it can be, because as I said in the beginning, there is a culture already in place since years, and there is a long way to get out of that comfort zone and get
for big
new thinking.
To have this,
and it's important to do so. It's important to do so, also to get new talents, because new talents already think in a different way than we may, that are already long in such a company. Yeah. So it's good and important to do so, because teams will be, from my point of view, much more efficient, because you learn so much, and the outcome is at the end much more sustainable and efficient.
And even profitable. That's
what I learned.
Michelle said. And Thomas, you raised your hand.
Yes, it may be a little bit provocative, but my personal opinion is there's a big risk when organizations are addressing this topic of diversity and inclusion. And it reminds me also about the whole sustainability topic, environmentally friendly, this greenwashing. And I sometimes have the feeling that, even though there are a lot of workshops being organized, and there are a lot of, HR people talking about this diversity, and we're such an inclusive mindset. At the end of the day, if you just look at what practically has changed within organizations, it's very, very limited. So this internal marketing some companies are doing just by convincing the people that they're very working hard on the topic, um, very black and white again. That really makes me sick.
Okay, I see you reacting to the word greenwashing here, Michelle.
Yeah.
Do you recognize this?
Yes, of course. I'm a speaker also because I have so many stories out of my leadership career, and one is the fact that I was asked to participate to a movie, to an HR film, and my answer was, it depends on the message of the film. Is the message of the film that we are diverse? So I wouldn't do it because I'm just an exception. As a single mother, as a foreigner, as a female leader, as a Black woman. So anyway, but if the message is, we would like to learn from you, we would like to know from your experience, we'd like to know why you identify with our company nevertheless, and what you think we could do another way, then I'm there and I'm in. I would like to do it. And I think this is one of the reasons why I decided to be on my own as a consultant and a speaker, because that two things. One is this, I don't know what, washing anyway. So if it's not a real intention behind it from the boards, from the top management, then what you do is actionism. And this has nothing to do with results and with measurability. And the other thing is, I used to be a leader in big companies, so I had the chance to attend a lot of personal development measures and so on. So, and we all know as leaders that we are for change and we are for diversity. So everybody thinks we are further than we are, because of course we also are human beings. So we've got our problems with change. We don't face it sometimes, and we are human beings. So we have some problems with stepping out of our comfort zone, which is absolutely needed for diversity and inclusion. So
changing is difficult for everyone.
That we are already there, it's quite difficult to really come forward. And what I do is that I really give the companies and the leaders and the employees the room to say, oh, I can't hear it anymore. And I don't know why we have to do that. And please let me do my job, and in 6 months we could speak about it another time maybe. But if you don't have this kind also of non-consensual conversation, it's quite difficult to come to the point of awareness and commitment. And this is what is also needed to have a real result and to really come forward.
That has to be the starting point, Michelle, awareness and commitment. That should be the starting point.
Awareness is definitely the starting point. And then the recognition of the necessity and the fact that it's a job. It's not about being net, being kind. It's really about, I would say, developing also the company and being aligned with the goals and the strategy of a company which wants to be movable and ready for the future.
Yeah.
And then you need some commitments, because it's not easy. It's not easy. You have to do something and you have to put yourself in question.
Yeah, you have to put the energy in it and to keep it as a topic, like we said earlier in this discussion. Stefanie,
Yeah.
do we need a new word? We heard the word greenwashing. Maybe that's a word that belongs to the sustainable or sustainability topic, but what kind of word would we need here?
I'm thinking what it could be, because it's far more than gender washing.
It is.
But I wanted to add, for me, it's even more than stepping out of the comfort zone. It really starts with being aware, and many of us haven't learned how to deal with it. So in my private life, I work a lot with disabled children, and normally you meet three groups of people. The first that feel annoyed and they don't want to see it. The second one, they are over helpful and they try to do everything and make it even worse with that. And the third one, and that's by far the largest, they don't know how to behave. They really don't know what to do and how to sort that. And I think that you can transfer to so many inclusion and diversity topics, that we have to find a way how to deal with it as something natural and not be ignoring or over helpful.
I think that can be key. This is the key question. How can we improve this? How can we help ourselves and the people around us change and get this awareness and get this inner need for inclusion and diversity, because it brings us a lot, because there's advantages to be found. But maybe that's a nice topic to talk about with some examples. Can we give some examples how we can help the company around us, or maybe our clients or our family or our friends or ourselves? How can we change? First example was by Ulrike, by the transition manager. That's a good example that you can give to other companies. Appoint a consultant like Michelle or someone like you for a transition manager. But are there more examples?
If I,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think one thing which is quite important from my point of view is just to notice that we all are on both sides, and it's very, very complicated, or I find it quite complicated to always think of the others and saying we have to do something for them. Or it's not okay how the other ones behave. I think we have to, so I attend to always use the word we, because I've got my biases too. I've got to confront them too, and I tell about them, and it's important to have a bridge and to speak together and to say, okay, we all are concerned on every side, but some of us, and I belong to these ones, and some people more than me and some people less than me, have more privilege. They have more power, not in the sense of hierarchy only, but power due to their education, due to different kinds of things, and therefore they have got just more responsibility. So they have to do more, maybe regarding that. But at the end of the day, it's not about being a good human being or a bad one. It's really about working on the own personal development, because it's also what is needed for, as a business case, one more time, for the development of the company too. So I think the first thing is really about the narrative around that.
Okay, and the narrative can start with using the word we. That's maybe the most practical tip that you give us.
The most practical, I don't know, but yeah, I think it's a good step.
Okay. It's this kind of practical things that I'm looking for, because I think this will help our audience as well to make different smaller or bigger steps. Thomas, what would be your practical tip?
Well, one of the things that we're doing, and it's within the super yacht building industry, it's a very male-driven industry. So one of the initiatives that we are taking is an initiative called Women in Yachting, and not only within the company but within the industry. So we also take on a bigger role of trying to be the change driver, enabler, or however you want to call it, within an industry, to really enable the women in our industry and to be noticed, and
can't hear you anymore, Thomas. I think your microphone got switched off. Lasse, can you help us switch on cameras and microphones again? Stefanie is back.
I am trying, yes.
Okay. I'm asking to start the videos again. Okay. It's not really working. Stefanie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, I can see you again. There's Michelle again.
I can hear you too. Yeah.
Okay, and I can hear you. That's nice. Thomas is getting back. Thomas, can you switch on your microphone again? Ulrike is there again.
We were somehow kicked out.
Yeah. Out of our own meeting.
All of us?
That's not inclusive.
It's just me. You know.
Thomas, can you switch
if
on
we
your
were-
camera again? Thomas, can you also
Yeah.
switch on your microphone, please?
Okay. So, but if we were all out, that was diverse too.
That was inclusive too. That's true.
There's a kind of equality in it here, but
We all have equal chances and opportunities to contribute.
that's true. That's true. So I hope Thomas will find, maybe Lasse, you can send Thomas a message with the request to switch on his microphone and
Yes,
camera again.
I just tried to.
We will continue our conversation here. I was looking for practical tips. Stefanie, do you have any practical tips that we can give our audience to make our company or our surroundings or ourselves more diverse or more inclusive?
Well, I think one other thing which is quite easy to make yourself aware of why you are reacting or thinking the way you think. We had a quite good program running within Siemens, which was called Unconscious Bias. And there was a lot of stories about things that happened where you always could ask yourself, how would I have reacted? And as I was really astonished how often I found myself in a situation to say, well, I would have thought same, but if I think twice, I would have thought otherwise.
Similar to what Michelle says, everybody has a bias. So that's something that you can get aware of with programs like that. But how did it work, Stefanie? Were it puzzles or were they conversations that you had every day? How did it work, that program?
So there were a lot of stories in films, in written that you could read, and you were invited to discuss about that as well. And there were quite a large community discussing those things, but mainly it helped to make yourself really aware why you act like you act.
Mm-hmm. And did it also give you
we had that same.
tips or instruments how to change it when you became aware? You had the same, Ulrike?
We had the same project or a similar maybe, and with us, Stefanie, it was a little bit different. We had kind of workshops again, first starting with the upper management. They were actually guided and also worked on examples and what would you do and how would you react, to then get some ideas of how to do better and more think about this. And then they had to do that workshop with their own teams. They got a person on their side to do it, because that was really helpful to even, get that first step done and explain what is really important to look into. So I like that a lot, because it gives, them the first opportunity to already try out and share.
Yeah, okay. And then you can also learn from each other and from each other's experiences while using this program.
I think it's
Michelle?
very important. So when I facilitate such workshops regarding inclusion and diversity, including biases, psychological safety, and so on, I for my participants, I would say you will get the most out of this program, of these possibilities, if you give in a lot of myself. So I really think that the conversations are even more meaningful and impactful if the participants, the colleagues have the openness to speak about things happening in their daily life, in their daily business, and situations they are struggling with, and situations where they are not comfortable with or not comfortable anymore with, and the possibility for people, I think, to open, to be opener or more open, is to if you achieve it, to say you don't have to feel that bad. You now if you do it in 2 months maybe, but now please, we all are human beings, and you are here because you would like to change something. So you have to confront your biases, and so I'm really trying not to speak too much about sexism and racism and very extreme situations which are not really related to the daily business of these top managers or managers who just think that they are not racist and they are not sexist, and maybe they are not anyway, but just trying to have very common situations, because where it happens, it's not the big things, there are the little things. There are little things each day. When you tell a woman in an interview or a man coming from other social background, oh, I won't give you this job, but you can be so happy with what you've got. I think your parents would be so certainly so proud of you, and they don't understand what that means, what they are saying, that they wouldn't have told that to somebody else with another background, and that this is reducing somebody to its origin or gender or anything else, but they don't really realize that it's part of the daily business. And I really tend to avoid speaking about extreme situations, because it's very easy not to also to be dissociated of it.
Yeah, I understand.
And the idea is to be associated and to say, hey, that could happen to me too, or maybe I really behave this way. Why did I do that? And is it okay or not okay? But it was a joke, but it was, what is a good joke? and to see but I'm also, so I always share my own examples too. So because we have to be and remain aware. It's a work. It's
and here awareness is the word again. Yeah, Ulrike?
Yeah. And there is still a long way to go, but I want to pick an example we already talked about earlier, Michelle. Think about 10 years ago, as a woman, you actually had to present, or you had a project and you prepared a presentation, whatever. How often did it happen that your manager took that and said, oh, let me present that. It's better that if I do that, it would be better, because however, that often happened. That changed already. There is already empowerment going on. I'm sure there can be much more, but it gets slowly better. And that's also an example, right? Maybe not in each and every company that is already the case, but this is exactly what the best would be, right? To empower.
What you say, Ulrike, if I combine it with what Michelle says, it's about awareness, and it's about also accepting the fact that there are different shades of gray, and that we should not look only at the extremes, but also if we have a mild example of sexism or racism, it still can hurt extremely. So how can we make it in such a way a topic of our everyday life that we will build upon this awareness gradually? So if we look back, that we can see that there are still steps being made. Stefanie, how would you look back upon your company career, let's say, I know you work for a long time at Siemens now, but can you tell us about the things that have changed already, about the wins?
So maybe I start with my start at Siemens 30 years ago. When I had my job interview, that guy told me, he said, "Oh, and we have a lot of engineers, so I'm quite sure you will find a nice husband here." And I said, that wasn't my intention. And I hope that this is not said anymore. At least, as we said so many times, you have to start with yourself. When I started being in a leading position, my team was all white, all German. And in the meantime, I have 5 nationalities in the team. I have different ages and different sexes, and I still work on that. And each time we have a job opening, and my colleagues as well, we look at not only who would fit into the team, but who would enrich the team.
Okay, so that's a different point of view. That's a different angle of attracting people to your team, your company. Michelle?
Yes, we made such, we're really coming forward. So it's, I started working 98 in Franconia. and so really, I think it's not about, anyway, I think blaming is not helpful. And I think that giving this subject this kind of weight, you know, so you know, bad conscience and I don't know, this is not the way. I think the way is really to see that we are coming forward, to realize anyway and identify that we are too slow because it's a fact. We are not fast enough regarding that.
Always,
and,
by definition, we are too slow.
Not always by definition. I would say there is a big, you know, when I started working, you heard this with, you will find an S-band. I could tell you a lot of things which are quite maybe would be provocative today. So it was more or less normal. So some things which are not existing anymore today. But we've got a kind of consensus regarding the fact that women in leadership should be, that we want to be inclusive, that we want to be diverse, that we want to come forward, and so on. And at the same time, if we look at statistics, despite this consensus, we are coming forward, but not in the same extent. So if you look at the mindsets, they really evolved a lot. If you look at the statistics, they are evolving, but not in that speed. So there is a kind of discrepancy. Yeah. And I think this discrepancy comes from the fact that we all want to be open-minded, and that we all see ourselves as open-minded, and we all have a lot of proof points that show that we are open-minded. And that's why we don't confront sometimes anymore these little day-by-day situations where we see, oh yes, this woman would be the right person, but she's got 2 children and they will have to travel.
Okay, I'd like to learn, Michelle. No. I'd like to learn. If we were looking for these day-to-day confrontational moments with ourselves, just to open our minds and not be happy with the way we are, but still wanting to learn and be confronted, what would be 3 good questions that we should ask ourselves, maybe every week or every month?
The first thing is, if you meet a situation that is surprising to you because it's not aligned with your bias or with what you think, please take it as an opportunity just to have a look at your worldview and not taking it directly for an exception. You know,
what would be the question there? I understand what you mean, but how would we phrase this question?
Is my surprise, is the fact that I am surprised, I say, factually right or not? Is it really an exception? a lot of people tell me I would be an exception, and say, how many Black people do you know, Black women, to be able to say that I am an exception? I'm the only one you know, and you mean I am an exception. So ask yourself, can I really see that this is an exception? So take the possibility, the things that are surprising you as an opportunity.
But the question could be, Michelle, is this an exception or is it my limited view?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's
and
one.
It's not a bad question. So it's a good
I think it's an open without blaming. It's a question without blaming. That's nice. So, maybe Ulrike, do you have a question like that as well?
I don't have a question, but I would suggest to speak up when it comes to a situation in a meeting where you can actually, where something like that happens.
Can you give an example?
That you then, you don't need to do that in the meeting itself. You could help that person afterwards, right? So like you see that there is a misunderstanding happening, or another person they're not allowed to speak up during the meeting, right? Then you could actually connect afterwards and say, hey, if it is not naturally already fixed in your meetings, that's what we are actually trying to do, that everybody's able to do so. But if that's not clear, you can do it afterwards and just say, hey, you talked about this and that. Have you thought about what you're saying there? And help that person.
So don't think it will solve itself, but if it is to be, it is up to me.
Nice put in words. Yeah.
It's not my own words, but I think it's applicable to this situation. But it won't solve itself, so act. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And Stefanie, what would be a question that we could ask ourselves, maybe every week or every month, or a situation that we should react to?
I think for me it would be, if I were in your shoes, how would I feel?
Okay.
So do I want to be the exception? Do I want to be the one that's stared at? Do I want to be the one who is questioned all the time because I don't look like the others or whatever?
Mm-hmm. We saw a project today, and one of the entries to the BIA World was Metite nelle mie scarpe. Walk a mile in my shoes. Put yourself in my shoes. Is that what you mean?
That's kind of what I mean. Yeah, I think it was an excellent transition, how to make people aware that there is more than one view, and that each one has something that drives him or her, and that you never know what it is. So before you judge, please try to be in the situation of that person.
Okay, and maybe look actively at what the drivers are for the behavior of that other person.
Yeah. Ask.
Okay. Ask, Michelle.
Yeah.
Ask.
Yeah, and maybe also, do I hear you? Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're present in this conversation, please ask our speakers for anything that you like. This is the opportunity. We have three speakers that are willing to give you the answers to your questions, how you can put diversity and inclusion in your practice or in your company into practice. So please let me know in the chat if you have any questions for one of the speakers in this conversation. We have about 5 minutes left. So we have these practical things these instruments that we have now. We have the question, we have the fact that if we recognize a situation, we should not wait till it solves itself, but we should act. And we can put ourselves in other people's shoes just to learn how they or why they do what they are doing, what their drivers are. Is there anything else that we can hand over to our audience that will help them in this situation? Or this
let's try to connect it to the new stage we actually
that's a good one.
Talking about today. Right?
Yeah.
So how is that connected to welcome to the new stage?
Is it a new stage or is it of all ages? What do you think?
I think it's not about the new stage here. It's more about what is in it for the new stage, right? So I think it's giving others, again, empower others bring other opportunities and views in, think about the formats, be open for new formats. All of that is also kind of diverse. And for me, then a perfect match to think about.
Okay, so it's an instrument to work on this new stage.
Absolutely.
It will help us on
It's part of. It has to. Yeah.
Stephanie?
From my point of view, I'm not sure what you think, Stefanie, but
absolutely, it's twofold. On the one hand, we are all try to help our organizations to sell something, and that world we sell into is diverse, absolutely diverse. And on the other hand, we are in a war for talents as well, and talents are diverse as well. So it's a win-win situation if you really make it work.
There's an extra driver, right? Because we are living in a world, especially in Western Europe at this moment, where it's very hard to get new employees, to get new colleagues, to find new people and find new talents, and to not only attract them, but also to attach them to your company. So this could be an instrument on that field, Stephanie.
Absolutely.
Michelle, this is easy for you because you're a consultant. So consult us. So help us. Give us some advice.
Here I am. I think it's also about the availability of things. So, you know, I was booked for a keynote on a women leadership convention of a big group, of a big company, and normally it would have taken place in the local headquarters city. So, and due to Corona, it took place online, and then they decided to stream it all over the world. So you didn't have only this this target group of leading women, and only the ones were able regarding time and so on and resources to come to the headquarters city, but everybody, and also men, because it was streamed. And this is a very, very powerful thing for the new stage, that you can just reach your employees and your colleagues without this waterfall thing, you know, so at once. And you can also involve them when you create something, because the audience is bigger anyway, and you need to have their views and perspectives to be able to really propose something which is relevant for everybody. So this is a real win-win-win situation, and with a lot of opportunities to give and a lot of opportunities to get. So I think the new stage, is where we gain from being diverse, not only speaking about it, but also using it and being diverse and inclusive. Yeah,
and being more comfortable in these new communication channels that we have on this new stage, like you tell us with the online meetings, also makes the global accessibility easier. It will be easier to reach a bigger audience, but also to reach specific people more easily.
Yeah, but not only in this idea of, as a headquarters, we tend always to think that we have to make the world happy and that we have to serve the world and that we know everything. So, but really also the other way around, because you can make things which are how you say, dispatched. And bring them together online, and you can really how say, I don't find the word right now, and we have to stop, but decentralized.
I think I understand what you mean. So the motto would not be travel the world and learn, but the motto nowadays would be serve the world and learn.
And let the world learn from each other. So you're here at the headquarters also for synergies. And you're here for the people to learn from each other and to get benefit from each other. And sometimes the people in two areas of the world have much nearer views and perspectives on things than with you at the headquarters, which is always an exception in companies.
And there we can find the synergy.
And so on. So really using the creativity, the possibilities, the perspectives, the ideas, and the will to contribute, which is there everywhere.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michelle Euzet. Thank you very much, Stefanie Winter. And thank you very much, Ulrike Tondorf, for contributing to this discussion. And Ulrike, especially for initializing this discussion at the BR World Experience or the BR World Festival this year. If you're looking at this conversation on our YouTube channel, please also visit our women leadership discussion that we had last year, which is still to be found on our BR World channel. And if you are visiting the next program parts, if you're watching this live and you are at the BR World Festival 2021 live, so please go to our next presentation by Miguel Neves, or visit the workshop by Courage Chad on making a very interactive event in this time of year, or this time in this area, in this time, maybe that's the way I should put it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for the invitation also. Thank you to everybody.
Bye-bye.